Go.
Hi, everyone. This is God Talk on May 1st, 2025, and our subject for tonight has to do with climate justice. And today is Beltane, otherwise known as May Day. And so I'm going to start out talking just a little bit about that as we do our icebreaker. Beltane, as I said, is also known as May Day. It's a Celtic indigenous uh, uh, celebration that started a long time ago, and it's the beginning of summer. It celebrates the powers of light and new life, and it's a season of maturing life and deep love, and the rituals that are associated with it. Probably the one you may know the most about is the maypole with the ribbons and the flowers. Bonfires are also associated with Beltane because it celebrates, because the fire, contact with the fire is symbolic of the summer sun's energy and warmth. Um, and the house fires are considered to be symbolic of the luck of the house. So a rowan branch is put over the house fire. Bonfires are lit in the pastures. The herds are like the cattle are herded through the smoke between the fires as a like a cleansing, a protection kind of thing as they're let into the wild pastures for the first time of the year. So it's a time for gratitude. It's of course back in the day, the church got involved, and as they do with all of the major holidays like Easter and Christmas, they kind of took over some all the pagan holidays as much as they could. And so nowadays, in a lot of places, a priest will have a service in the church to start with on Beltane, and then will lead a procession out into the fields to light the bonfires. People also decorate their homes with flowers to celebrate the season and eat lots of the foods of the season, the summer and spring season, and share a feast with other people. So those are some of the traditions. And so I think talking about climate justice is very apropos for a day like today. So on our icebreaker, as usual, we'll do our introductions with the name and preferred pronouns, and and I'd like you to just say, since the bringing in the flowers and eating foods of the season are um, are symbolic of Beltane or May Day, um, I'd like you to just say a food or a flower that makes you think of springtime. So I'm Carol, she, her, and I think of daffodils. Those always make me think of springtime. Marco's way behind me because of his RSV, and but I think you can hear him. And Marco, do you want to do your?
Okay, okay. Michael, yep, I got peacock. Oh.
Did you say pizza? I was thinking of something like a fruit, like I have a blueberry hibiscus drink. That's kind of springy. Or peaches.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll go in order that we got on. So let's do Suzette next, and Suzette has to leave pretty soon.
Yes, I'm Suzette, and I'm a she, her. And well, my favorite flower is peony. So when I lived in Seattle, they were seasonal for that part of the area or that part of the country. So, but in Texas, it's the bluebonnet. So it just depends on where I'm at with regard to the flowers. But those are my two favorites.
Oh, lovely.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, bluebonnets. Oh,
Yep.
I'm
They're
glad you
everywhere.
brought those up. That makes me smile. Okay, Trina, can you unmute, or let's see if you're able to.
Let's see. I guess roses. My dad used to plant roses. And I like to eat fruit during the spring, so grapes and watermelons.
Good one. That's wonderful. Okay, Kim.
I'm Kim, she, her. I I guess it would be strawberries more than anything would be the fruit. I'm really not a super big flower person, so I don't know a lot about flowers, so I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, Kreger.
Kreger, he, they, and blueberries are my thing. They used to remind me of spring in Wisconsin, but now that we get our food from all over the world, blueberries, you can always get them 365 now. But I enjoy blueberries now from Chile in lots of different countries because I eat them 7 days a week.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, Lynn.
Lynn, she, her. My favorite flower is tulip, and they make them in all different colors. They bloom in all different colors now. So that's one of the things that I like the most. And I guess for food, it would have to be grapes. I love grapes, any kind of grape, green grapes, red grapes. As long as I even eat the ones with seeds in them. I love grapes.
Lovely. I got to be in Holland one time in the spring, and the tulip farms were so
Yeah,
amazing. They were just I didn't
yeah,
even know they came in so many different shapes either.
right,
And so,
right.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Uh, what is it, Marco? You love grapes too? Wonderful. Okay. All right, Craig.
Hi, Craig. Typically he, him, but any pronouns will do just fine for me. Lynn, you are Adrian's flower kin. Yes, he loves tulips. Tulips are his favorite. My favorite flower, though, is the poppy, which you do not see much of, I guess, because they're banned in like most areas, because of their history, I guess. But I love poppies. As far as a spring food, lots of folks have said strawberries. A couple weeks ago, we saw the musical Waitress here in Houston, and afterwards we got some pie. It's a very pie-themed musical, and had a strawberry rhubarb pie.
Yummy.
And so I'll go with rhubarb, I guess, to be slightly off center, but I feel like that's very springy. Oh, Carol, I think you're on mute.
Okay. I love it. That's perfect diversity. That's beautiful. Well, climate justice. Suzette, you were saying something just about the eco-theology, and just being out in nature, and the connection between climate justice and spiritual awareness and growth. Can you say more about that?
Really connect. I think I'm more involved our church. We have so many interests that are diverse outside of what other churches do, and it, to see the intersection of spirituality and honoring the earth is what I see and hear. I'm going to put my seatbelt on here. But I think it's really important that we keep in mind the importance of green spaces for our children. And actually, Christy has been working on a project in her school district where they were given a very large grant from the Hershey Foundation to introduce plants and growing gardens, and they're given the they're given kits to check out and use in rotation, where they get to actually take them home to their families and create a garden at their home. And that's something that was never part of these children's lives, because they're part of that marginalized community. Her school district is underserved, so the fact that they're getting to do this, and then they're also getting they're having activities with like Rice University, and what was that, the ship channel thing that she went on today. But it's part of our legacy for us to honor the earth, but to teach that to our children, just like we teach religion, just like we teach, mathematics and things. That these are all things that are absolutely essential to continuing life on our earth. So having that as part of a spiritual practice and a community and a family system is extremely important. I wish every school district had access to doing something like that. A lot of the inner city kids never even see a green space. So anyway, that was my big spiel for tonight. Lots of different things that I'm thinking about as this topic, brings them all to the front of my head. But I find that we need to do these things with our children. That was my main point.
Well, that's a beautiful point. And green spaces, I think, are important not just for us to enjoy, but also for just the health of the planet. And we were talking about Central Park in New York, as Suzette said to me, that was just genius, the planning of that and putting that in the middle of New York City. The just affecting the air quality and just the lives, if there wasn't that kind of green space in the middle of a huge urban dwelling, like urban place like that, then just the oxygen levels, everything would be compromised. So green spaces are important for a whole lot of reasons. It's kind of interesting what you said about faith communities too. It seems like the same type of congregations that are affirming of LGBTQIA plus people and are the same ones that support climate justice, that see climate justice as a spiritual responsibility. I think all these things are tied together, and among other groups, but LGBTQIA plus people are also, I think, indisproportionately affected by climate change, just as BIPOC people are, because of housing insecurity, because just all of these issues affect marginalized communities so much more, just because of the nature of the vulnerabilities of people in marginalized communities, not having access to health care as much. All of those kind of things make a big difference. What do y'all see as the connections and the intersectionality there?
I mean, in terms of like the community's support, I I think there's empathy, I guess. I think there's empathy at play with support for LGBTQ causes, just like there is empathy at play for support for environmental causes, and care for the marginalized can include our own, rock that we live on, as a gigantic marginalized entity, that can often, like with other resources, be used and abused by power structures. So that's kind of where I see those things intersecting when it comes to care for the environment as well as care for, um, LGBTQ causes.
That's
But
a good
like
point. I
completely,
think
oh, sorry, go ahead.
we talked a little bit last week about just the moral imperative of having a values based, a moral based um, government, a means of just a foundation to that seems to be lacking in many of the decisions that are made in in our country today. So yeah, taking care of the earth and just providing that legacy um, for the children, for future generations, I think is key. And if you don't have compassion, if you don't base your decisions on compassion, if you just base it on maximizing profit, um, then you develop an extractive economy, something that just doesn't mind taking and taking and taking from the earth and from people, uh, and just at the cost of profit for just a few. Um, I don't want to get into. I know there was some discouragement with the topics that we talked about last week, and we talked about some lawsuits. But I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that are very timely that happened just this week. There were some lawsuits, like Hawaii was planning on suing some big oil companies for their effect on climate change that caused the devastation in Maui. Um, and the Trump administration decided to sue Hawaii first to try to block this lawsuit. And then the Justice Department filed an almost identical lawsuit against Michigan for similar, who were planning similar lawsuits. And uh, a lawyer making a comment on this said this is just a bizarre legal strategy to try to sue somebody first before they bring a lawsuit is just really, I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds very complicated and doomed to lose. So I hope that's true. But the effects are the effects of climate change are predicted to be just devastating. It's going to where it's going to be difficult to sustain life in the way that we do it currently by the end of this century, if we don't make changes by the end of this decade. So what um, so it seems like fossil fuels are at the heart of this. What else do you see as important issues that are affecting the climate?
Water. In central Texas, where we have exceptional drought, there's just so many people moving into this part of Texas, and there's not enough rain. There's not. We could, if we don't get significant rain, we could really be facing a water crisis in as little as 5 years. So our lakes are only half full right now. And yes, there's millions of gallons of water in there, but if we keep experiencing this drought, um, you know, that water is going to be um, the new cryptocurrency. Water is, people will fight over water because everybody needs it to live, to survive. So I think we'll see some, we're already seeing it up and down the Colorado River, the states fighting over water rights to the Colorado in the West. And so, in terms of intersectionality, Uprising sits on 10 acres in Austin. And so, our sanctuaries are beautifully positioned in a fantastic place. Paul and I have been out there many times on Sundays after service, helping take care of the grounds and so forth. So we're blessed to have a beautiful property um, to reside on. Craig knows all about it. He was there.
Had to see you this weekend.
Yeah, I saw Craig.
Nice. Nice. I was part of a book club from a church that I attended in Amarillo that I can't even remember the name of the book, but it was written by an Episcopal priest who grew up in Canada, but she was a professor at Texas Tech currently, and so some of my parents' friends knew her and spoke highly of her. Anyway, she talked about some of the research about what we can do to make a difference, because everybody gets discouraged about things like recycling, that it doesn't seem to make as much difference as we all hoped, um, and and I think that there is a big place for not not of the amounts that we consume and the types of things, like the single-use plastics, trying to avoid those kind of things, just using like a water bottle instead of buying bottled water all the time, things like that, when you can. I think, but she said the things that her research showed made the most difference. um, Number one was the number of kids you have. So, that was very telling. And she's like, "Well, we're not going to go back and take our kids away." But and I doubt anybody makes their decision to have kids or not have kids based solely on the effect on the climate. But but uh, but the next one down had to do with cars. So I think the effect of fossil fuels just is everything. It just makes such a difference in the ozone layer and in so many important parts of climate change. So Kreger working from home probably does the best of us with not overusing fossil fuels. I've really struggled with my own impact in driving accessible vehicles, which are always heavier and have poor, and I haven't yet seen an electric or a hybrid vehicle that has a ramp. But anyway, that's that's something to think about, that we can all do. But I think the advocacy in terms of just not letting the earth be pillaged and trying to find alternatives um, to the overconsumption, to the extraction of all the resources without replenishment in our world is the key. Do any of you have any other insights as to what makes a difference?
I ride my bike, and I don't even use my car until Friday, and that's because I have to get too many bags of food at HEB to carry them on a bike. um, and it's the little things. I'll wear a shirt like this. I work at home. I'm on camera, but I'll wear clothes several days so that when it comes to doing laundry, I can use less detergent, less water in the washing machine. I don't smell that bad. So, um,
I saw you
you
on Sunday, can confirm, no smell.
thank you, Craig. Um, yeah, I think it's little bitty things like that that over a course of a lifetime add up. But I'm like, where's all these Republicans with children that, I want to know people with children just, to step up and tell me what they're doing because, I'm 62, I'm on my way out, unless I live to be 120, and I'm not inheriting any children, nothing to children on this planet. So, I'm just making an effort because it's the right thing to do. But I just can't believe there's so many people in this country with their head up their wazoo that, this isn't absolutely front and center, the biggest deal um, for each and every person that lives on this planet. It's, like you were saying, it's now or it could be never. We just don't know.
That's uh, let's think a little bit just about about why you said because it's the right thing to do. So why is it the right thing to do, and how does our faith as Christians inform us about why this is the right thing to do?
Well, it's the right thing to do in my mind, whether I have children or not. It's
Yeah, when we're talking about our legacy, we're talking about future generations. When I said the children, I meant not just the children that are alive now. I mean all the future generations, and I think
But
that's
you see what I'm saying? I could easily fall back on the thought process like I don't have kids. I don't care. I'm gonna buy a '67 Chevy, and that still uses that gas from 1960. I can't even. I don't even know what they called it, Lynn. I'm like, why should I care? I don't have kids, but I do care because I'm outside 90 minutes a day, and I still, as long as I'm here, I need breathable air as much as possible. And like I said, it's just the right thing. You do things because they're the right thing to do. That's the only reason you need.
Well, I
well,
think the first thing that has to happen is we have to get more people to believe that climate change is real. Since the advent of alternative facts,
Mm.
people have begun to believe what they want to believe or what fits their worldview about it. I am struck by the fact that the first 25 verses in in Genesis talk about the earth and the sun and the sky and the sea and their creation. And so I'm dumbfounded in believing in so-called people of faith. I won't say Christians, but people of faith not understanding that the one thing that they aren't making any more of is land or air or and the water that we have has to come from the sky. I'm disturbed by the whole space race that seems to be, picking up the three ladies that went up into space. And how many times have we disturbed the Earth's atmosphere just by because these people want to go up in space and they're talking about living on Mars and all that sort of thing. So first thing is we have to renew our respect for Mother Earth. I mean, that's the first thing we got to do.
yes.
And it really doesn't, like I'm on my way out too. But it's the right thing to do because this is Mother Earth, because this is this is where we live. This is where humankind began. And so, yeah, we have to do all that. I tend to think that since COVID, God has been talking to us and showing us, in fires and storms and hurricanes and tornadoes and all of these that we need to pay attention to Mother Earth, and respect her for who she is.
Yes, there's a Native American blessing. Let's see if I can remember it right. It says something like, "May I have love and compassion uh, for my fellow beings from now to the seventh generation."
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, what we do just affects so many people. And I like that you brought up Genesis. And I think that some of the exploitation that has been done of the resources has been done by misusing some of those verses, particularly that humans should have dominion. And
Hmm.
I think that word is one of those, um, I haven't studied, Hebrew or Greek or any of that or Aramaic languages, but I'm told that is not a correct translation of that word. And I can't remember the exact word that it says, but it's more like, but it's more of a word that means more like farming, like caring for, and not just having dominion over. It's not,
Well,
it's a connection. It's not that humans are there to rule over. Humans are there to connect with and be part of the web of life and take care.
well, the Earth is the first 25. Man doesn't get here until verse 26. So the first 25 verses are all about the earth and the heavens and the earth, about Mother Earth, and then verse 26, God decides to create man. So, and everything follows it. But he's created everything before, the heavens, the earth, the seas, the the creatures of the sea, and birds of the air, before man starts at verse 26, and that lasts until verse 31. So the majority, the chapter 1 is only 31 verses, and the first 25 are about earth,
Nice.
are about earth. And
Nice. Thank you
26
for
to
bringing that in. The one
yeah.
of the components I may have mentioned it briefly when I was talking about May Day, um, is is gratitude. And the Bible says a lot about giving thanks, and I think that's one of the ways that we honor our Creator is by noticing, being grateful, being present. And a lot of you have mentioned throughout these times when we talk about like taking care of ourselves, when we talk about stress relief, everybody mentions nature, mentions getting out in nature, and um and I think just being present and noticing what what these great gifts that we've been given, and being grateful is key to to and that leads us to wanting to protect, to wanting to take care of the earth, to wanting to learn new ways. There are some pretty innovative people that have come up with some new ideas. I'm thinking right now of like Greta Thunberg, who there are some people coming up with some great ideas um, that could help save us if we really start paying attention. Trina, maybe you see some little budding geniuses in your classrooms that um, that will that this will make a huge difference for in the world? I mean, kids seem to naturally like to be outside and join um, and appreciate the world that we live in before they start getting caught up in the rat race.
Yeah, that's true. And I like it when I see kids want to be veterinarians, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's still a thing with them. And we actually have, like I tell you, I work after school, and one of our mastermind courses is gardening. So we had a few kids that signed up for that. And the teacher got tired of doing it, but the kids still want to do the gardening. So, yeah, I mean, I think schools have to try to find a budget to keep that going, especially in elementary. So when they get in middle school and high school, you'll still have some kids that want to do that. Instead of it being a cultural thing where most of the kids who live in rural areas are, you know, the people who want to keep the earth clean or know more about the land. So I just, like you were saying earlier, if more urban schools would just kind of put that in their program, or even if it's just an after school program, you know, kids learn to garden, you know,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
that's a great point. I remember having a garden in that just got started like in my elementary school, and
Yeah.
I saw a post just yesterday about this garden in Chicago, more like a little farm. But it was, I mean, it was tiny. It was like a block or two, you know, that people in the neighborhood tended, and the produce fed like thousands of people all year long. It really
Mm,
helped decrease in food insecurity, and as well as just providing a beautiful community space. And I think I think that intersectionality is really telling too. Um, and I think as we can rely less and less on the federal government to provide the programs that we've come to rely on for food and for income in our older age, for health, for everything like that, we're going to need to rely more and more on our local communities. So, you know, it starts with us, and a church is a beautiful place to build community and to do and to start initiatives like that, um, to to help others in our community. So isn't it nice how those kind of things, it's not just about reaching out. I mean, it gives back in so many ways, and just, you know, helps the climate, helps Mother Earth, as well as showing compassion for each other.
One of our friends here locally, he's getting his degree so he can be a teacher. Right now, he's a TA for a sped class, and he's helping to start up an after school gardening program at the elementary school that he works at, and sorry, not, I shouldn't say after school, summer school gardening program. And um, they actually helped us, I want to say 3 weeks ago now, set up some garden boxes in our backyard. And we started a garden literally 3 weeks ago, and like all of the seeds are sprouting and the pea shoots are coming up, and you can see the little carrot fronds popping up, and some of the herbs are beginning to develop. And you know, when I was a kid, we did this in science class where I don't know if y'all have done this too, but you You put a seed into the little toilet paper roll or into a wet napkin or something, and you watch it sprout. But that's kind of like really where it started and ended, and we didn't really take it too much further from that. And I think we planted ours in like a little container of dirt, but then not much else happened after that. They didn't really teach you how to take care of that, and so it just really died, and that was the end of it. But being able to see something come of it and to um, be fruitful in a literal sense of like bearing actual fruit and bearing vegetables, um, I think kind of would have gone a long way, because if you had asked me even 5 years ago, like, would I be interested in this? I'd be like, no, I don't really care. But Adrian wanted to do it because our friends were doing that. And I kind of went along for the ride. Now I go out in the morning and, we water the garden, you get to see the babies growing. And it's it's actually been very gratifying to kind of like see that connection. And also to, um, when you, I guess, specific to the phrase like climate activism, growing your own food as kind of like an act of resistance in a way, and being self-sustaining and contributing to the like local ecosystem and cycle of nature, because that's going to bring in different bees, and we've already seen like butterflies and like things around the garden that we wouldn't even seen a couple weeks ago that have just naturally come into our backyard as a result of the new things that are popping up and sprouting and growing, is really cool. It's really cool and interesting to see all of that stuff happen. The posting from Lynn, "Oh Lord my God, but I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe dismayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art! How great thou art!"
I,
Yes,
I think we
it
have to get
is.
back to that awesomeness, to remembering that awesomeness
Mhm.
about Mother Earth, about growing our own vegetables and the joy that it brings, you know. So
And
it's
it gets back to you, right? Like it's the cyclical thing.
right,
That's really
right.
beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And growing things just you know, seeing growth gives you hope. It and just planting a seed is an act of hope for the future, you know. Um I I've really enjoyed doing a couple of things like well, let me first say, like, we've only been to an in-person church here locally, just a few times, but a couple of weeks ago, Marco came home with just some little seeds that are sprouting. They said he chose basil because he knew that was one of my favorites, and that's coming up. But something else is coming up too. I think it's sunflowers. So, so maybe did you do both? But one thing that just tickles me, and you know, if for people who it could make a difference for people, but I've just tried to start growing like things from your grocery scraps. And the thing I've been the most successful with is just green onions. You know, just I mean, and you still get to eat almost the whole thing. You just saved the little root part. And you know, I've been saving a lot of seeds. I've got some peppers, some bit like bell peppers coming up. Well, I think the bugs might have got them now, but anyway, um, just doing things like that is fun, and it's good for your spirit as well as good for the earth.
One thing I wanted to mention, because I think someone asked you, or maybe it was you, like, how do you get folks to care? Um, I mean, honestly, like, if you have someone in your life who is, or if you yourself are not someone who believes in climate change or the effects of climate change, I will say, like, follow the money, because you can see the effects of that literally right now, today, in our area here in Houston, in a very real monetary sense, because of insurance, because of there are so many insurance companies, who are no longer insuring houses in certain areas or in certain states entirely, um, because those states have seen too many disasters and there is too much climate change occurring in those areas, that they have deemed these areas to be bad risk and are uninsurable. And if there was not climate change, then that would not be the case, because those companies are going to be out for money, and the more people that they can touch, and the bigger their market, the more money they can make. But they're saying your money is so bad for us because you are such a risk. We don't even want to touch you. You are scorched earth for as far as
Mhm.
all we are concerned with. And when we bought this house, which we were renting in previously, I had to call so many companies just to find ones that would actually insure us in this area. And we're not even in a flood zone. We're not even in a flood zone. This house has never flooded. But it's just because we are near to other
Mhm.
areas that we're just like totally persona non grata for the insurance companies. And our rates, as I'm sure some of y'all's have, like our rates went up
Astronomical.
tremendously this last year. We went up by 30%.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
crazy. So it's pocketbooks. It's like very, very real monetary impacts that go along with this. And if those companies thought we could insure you and actually have rates that you would pay for, they would. Of course, they would love to take our money, but they're just that it's just that bad that they don't want to touch
Right.
us.
I think the state of Florida is having a huge problem with insurance right now. So, yep.
Hmm.
They should be. They've been nailed with so many hurricanes over the last 5 years, significant, devastating hurricanes.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well, do what gives you hope for the future of our Earth, our climate, our sustainability?
People like us. Everyone who believes in climate change, we're all probably doing our part to to reduce the effects of it. Not driving um, 7 days a week, or recycling the plastic. I take a weekly trip to our recycle center. We recycle everything we can. Um, haven't gotten to growing anything, but I have a niece in Indianapolis who's just gone full tilt on growing her own vegetables, and for her family, and so it spreads because of people like us who are aware and who are willing to talk about it, and who are willing to make the small changes that are necessary. Krager, wearing his shirt 3 days so that he uses less um, a detergent. We have switched to the Francis switched to the sheets of detergent instead of the big bottles of it. So
Oh, how are those
the
doing?
thing that
I've seen
gives
those.
yeah, the thing that gives me hope is people like us paying attention and remembering the awesomeness of Mother Earth and God's creation.
Yes.
I saw
Yes.
something. It's a little dark, but in a way it gives me some hope also, which is to say, um, the Earth will be fine in the end, whether it's because of what we've done or in spite of what we've done, and we're no longer around to cause it any harm. On a long enough time span, the Earth itself will be just fine. whether because of us or in spite of us.
Right.
And so make sure you're on the side of the because of us and not the in spite of us.
Right.
Yeah, that's important. I um I want to try to use some of my creative I need creative outlets like painting or something like that. But um I admire junk artists. And one of the things that I can't find any place that recycles glass anymore in a wide span. And even I've even checked like if I took it to Lubbock where mom lives, but no, they don't take glass either. So anyway, so I'm trying to think of all these art things I could do with glass bottles and I haven't gotten around to anything yet, but we'll see. One of the things that I have heard it said too that if you can reuse, that's even better than recycling. And and there was a big movement. I sat next to someone on a plane one time, quite a few years ago. I think it might have even been before COVID, or at near the beginning, when um, where there was this big initiative, and in our state, Santa Fe was the hub um, for um, for trying to get a lot of these big companies with things like shampoos and detergents and things like that to where you just have big filling stations where you take your bottles in and just refill them at a much cheaper rate than buying new bottles. So I thought that was a fascinating initiative, and I'm sad that I haven't heard more about that getting off the ground. But maybe it will in the future. There's some innovative thinkers out there.
I'm sorry that you can't find a recycler. Our recycle center here in LaPorte does take glass and tin and
Well, I think it
newspaper
would take too much
and
fossil fuel for me to get it down to you.
I know. It would. I'm just sorry that you can't dump it off like we can. That's all.
Our
But I think the
recycle
art
bin,
is a great idea.
our recycle bin here is always at least twice as full as our regular trash because there's so much that we can for Austin. Austin is the big green town, so there's so many things that we can put in that recycle bin. Now, God knows where it goes after it leaves the bin, but at least we're trying.
Mhm.
But yeah, we'll have one garbage bag full of plastics and stuff like that you can't recycle the kind, and then we'll have a whole tub full of the recycled things. So, and unfortunately, that one only comes once every 2 weeks, and so by the time the next recycle comes, it's up to the top, full of stuff. So
Well, our community is very aware here. We did have a system whereby you could pay to have somebody come and pick up your these they just had little open top boxes, not the big bins. And but you had to pay extra and the price and they took it to a place just down my dirt road at the end of my road. So it was very close, and but there were still just they were very picky about what they could take, and they closed down when the head of it got too old and sick, I guess,
Wow.
to run it. But so we finally there we were with for 6 months. We had to just like either give up recycling or take it with you on a trip or something. But um now we have something that again they're very picky about what they can take, and sometimes when Marco goes up to Denver, I'll send the things that they'll recycle there that we can't recycle here. I'll send them up there, or I'll use like some of the I have my little things of this is recycle, this is compost. We do have my neighbor built a compost bin for just our little neighborhood, so we can just instead of because if you just dump it in your yard, then then it's prairie dog food, and we don't need any more prairie dogs. That just shows another imbalance of in nature when you have that kind of problem. But anyway, and then I have like my burn trash, that if you're going to build a fire anyway, then might as well get rid of a little trash, just like my grandmother used to. She'd she'd build those fires once a week or whatever to get rid of some of that. Anyway, we're nearing the end here. Does anybody have any final thoughts of what we've talked about today? This has been a lively discussion, and I appreciate it. And we've talked on just so many different aspects about what the causes are, what we can do as individuals, what groups can do. We've talked about the theology behind it, about our values. This has just been a great discussion, and I appreciate all of you and your participation here, or just your attendance and listening. That's beautiful. So, hearing no other comments, Gregor, would you pray us out?
Absolutely. Holy God, we're grateful again for this God Talk and tonight's discussion, especially about Mother Earth, some of our favorite subjects to talk about because we do care, because it's the right thing to care. This planet is so spectacular and still amazingly beautiful and gorgeous, and still, after all the abuse that it has taken, especially over the last couple of 100 years from human beings, it's still a spectacular place to be. Every time we step outside, there's something of you that we can notice in nature every single day, every single time. We thank you for that beauty, and we hope that you will give us the strength and the commitment to keep doing our best to preserve what we have here, and to leave it for future generations to enjoy the beauty of, I think it's our creation together at the end of the day, because we're all creating this earth together. So we thank you for that. We just ask that you lead us the rest of this week in light and love, and we pray all this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Man.
Amen, amen. That was beautiful.
Amen and
Thank
thank
you
God.
all. Lots of love.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. God bless.
God bless.